Hello and welcome to the Aaron Roussos podcast. It is fantastic to have you here on the podcast today. Look, I'm going to be very truthful and I've always, honesty's probably been one of my top three values, and, I'm going to tell you something. If there was ever a time to, if this is the only podcast you listen to in your whole entire life, then that'll be okay. And I'm not talking about my podcast in general. I'm talking about this episode. This episode is about cancer. Okay. Now, just in general, but I'm going to tell you from my perspective, having more knowledge of us as human beings, how we work, and the system we're part of here on Earth from a holistic point of view. But I'm also going to tell you what cancer is, how you get it, how you keep it, how you get rid of it, all the different types of ones. Okay, do you know what the different names are? The names and the groups depend on, where the tumours or where the unnatural piece of this disease that doesn't come from this body, which means somewhere along the lines, whether it be from your thoughts, your environment, your diet, even your consciousness, a combination of, do you know that you're actually unconsciously giving yourself that cancer? It didn't just appear there overnight, did it? There's never been, we talk about, aggressive forms or super cancers or super butt disease, all this shit. And maybe that just means they're more reactive or, more aggressive. Even the most aggressive cancers didn't grow there overnight. In fact, they took a long time to grow there, and it wasn't until, because of the culture that you're born into, you go, oh, something doesn't feel right, so you go and make an appointment with someone else, and that could be days away, could be weeks away. Then you go and see him, and you say, oh, I don't feel right, and he does a little bit of investigation, and he comes back and says, oh, look, we think we should run some tests, and that'll tell us for sure. I don't know what's wrong, but obviously blood work is one way. It's almost can tell you a lot. I recently had a blood test, and they told me about a serious illness that I got that you can catch from cat poo that I had last year, and I wondered what the fuck that was. It felt like another sort of warped version of COVID. It was bad. I was pretty sick. So we've got the blood work, we've got all these beautiful indicators, but at the end of the day, evidence-based, something that you can see that it works nearly every time, consistently, more than normal. We don't understand the holistic side, but who cares? We know that the gravity, electricity, magnetics, all this is multidimensional and quantum, but we don't mind using it every day. It's just when Aaron comes up with something that everyone goes, oh, hang on a minute, buddy, don't get too fucking complex. And that's like, well, you don't know how electricity gets to your fucking light and turns it on every day, but you're quite happy to use it. So I think you just better, this goes for everyone, just internally, and this is not coming from a place of malice or anger or anything like that, just from a place of love, just say to yourself, listening to this right now, just shut the fuck up and listen. Listen to what this guy has to say. He's spent his whole life on a quest to find out why we're here, how we work, and he's come up with the greatest discovery in human history thus far. And because of the amount of human conditioning that has been layered upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer upon layer, you've found yourself completely so far removed from your true self, who you actually are, your true character, your true energy, your true essence. And you've become this version you can almost tell from human conditioning, because I can tell that you give the same automatic responses as another person. And the only thing that you've all done consistently is consume the same content through your senses. Same news, same social media, same TV, same sport, same headlines, same fear, same doctrine, same religion, same this. And so we find some patterns. There seems to be a bit going on. You don't understand what's going on, so just stay quiet and listen, okay? There's a reason why we don't know what causes cancer. In all cases, I do, and I'm about to tell you. But you just won't shut up. I can hear your thoughts. You have no idea who I am. You don't know how I got this information. You don't know how advanced I am in the other parts of life that you have been conditioned not to even look at. The mind and the soul. Now, I'm going to tell you some facts, okay? And just give me the benefit of the doubt of having done something and put myself into uncomfortable situations and done things that I didn't have to do, to find answers that I didn't have to get, and that I've spent a lifetime on it. So give me the benefit of the doubt and just listen to what I've got to say. Because from where I sit, as far as mathematics go, that equals, there's a formula and there's an answer to everything. And now you might go to say something. You might go to challenge, because I've said something that challenges your belief system, and you might turn around and go, well, there's lots of different cancers. They're all different. That's why we can't find them. Now, that's a pre-programmed response coming from the doctrine, from media, mainstream media, and that is making all of you say the same thing, okay? There's many different things that you automatically say. I've been doing it for years myself. But on this particular topic, I get to see it all. I get to experience it all because I've done something that no one's ever done before, ever on this planet. No other human being, no other human being, that's all, in history has ever found this information out, has ever done what I've done. And that there you think would be the part where we dance in the street and we go, wow, this just opens up a whole new fantastic chapter for human beings on Earth. It just changes the template. It makes 8 billion lives better. That's how amazing this is. But you know what? I'm no one special. In fact, I'm not educated in the world as far as tertiary education goes. I didn't go to 14 years of repetition like you do and still didn't learn how to critically think for yourself. I didn't do all that sort of stuff. I didn't get the mortgage and the 3 kids and the car and the dog and the whole thing. In fact, from a very early age, like everything is fluid and multidimensional, I've had different stages and periods in my life from early ages, when I'm talking about, working, when I started working about 13, all the way through to my 40s. Everything was very fast because I had some trauma that I couldn't turn off. And so it almost kept me in a state of perpetual motion, which we all are anyway, but a speeded up version, an anxious version, whatever, but I didn't get anxiety from that. That came years later. And so where I get my information from, like I'm telling you, right? No one's ever come on a podcast, on the news, on the media and said, I'm going to tell you exactly what causes all types of cancer. I'm going to tell you how to fix all types of cancer. And I'm going to tell you in one podcast. And anything that I tell you, like, if you've listened to any of my other podcasts about anything woo-woo or spiritual or evidence-based that has no proof whatsoever, I'm not interested. So I'm going to give you something that you can all test with any cancer, and it's what I've tested with cancers with terminal patients that had 3 days to live to 3 months to live. I've tested it on all of them and every single type of cancer. Okay? So I'm going to, not only am I going to give you the cause, the cure, I'm going to give you something that you can test on any person that has cancer. Any person in the world. Has anyone ever offered that to you before? Now, there's a reason why I know the causes. Because to fix something, you have to know what's causing it. And even if it's not medical, right? If something is wrong, you need to know why it's wrong to be able to rectify to that and fix it. So that became a bit of a principle or a key or a part of the formula that, and for some reason, I don't go to any other part of research or anything else. All I do is I research the causes of cancer, and I have some tools. Some of them might be spiritual or controversial, that gets me answers that doctors, professors and governments here on earth can't get, because they only deal in the 3D physical, linear, limited life. A doctor doesn't even study nutrition, and some simple forms of natural homeopathic or natural, it's not his job. He doesn't learn it at school. And I've been into, many podcast rant about the things that are hidden in plain sight right in front of us that we do and experience every day that we don't question. But because of those 14 years of repetition at school, there was no reason for you to question everything, because you become a limited version of what you can be. And so let's just get into this so you guys can test it out and prove me wrong. This is the truth, and most aren't ready to hear it because of this world and everything that you've just been through to get you to this point. But at the end of the day, I don't care. I'm going to tell you what caused it. I'm going to tell you how to fix it. I'm going to give you some reference points to come back to, and then you're going to go and do it. And if you do it in full and in total and it doesn't work, then you come and tell me, mate. Because when I tell you at the end where I got this information from, or maybe I won't tell you where I got it from. Maybe I'll make you all test it first, and then when you all start healing yourselves, This is going to affect 1 billion people, right? So I'm going to sell it for $29. You can go to my website. You can download the whole protocol for $29. Okay? But first I'm going to take you through the causes and how to fix it and how each thing came about. So I don't go to any other part of this research to find out what causes cancer until I know, and I feel like I have a really good understanding of what causes cancer. Like many diseases, cancer has many, many things that not can cause it, but we know that it's not a natural thing, right? A cancer, regardless of what type it is something unnatural for a natural system. It doesn't belong in the human being. We've done something and created it. Now, if we look at ourselves holistically, I'm going to take you through each. Like physical, you have a good understanding of the physical sense, but you don't. Okay. Human beings, when they think of something, you can see that in, like those thermographs where they have the brain and you can see it lighting up like electricity when someone thinks something. And that's at like less than a second, the pathway, that thought, to move that finger moves down, and then chemicals in your body move the muscle. Like each DNA strand is 3 billion chemicals, plus in each strand, woven over and over and over against each other, and that, and it's a field, right? The DNA, it's in the tip of your hair, and it's in your end of your toenail. It's a field, it goes through everything. So physically, we have, biology and a chemical, there's a lot of chemical reactions. There's hundreds and thousands of processes all going on at once. But as I said earlier, they're just as affected by the mind and the soul, but you don't understand those parts because we're not allowed to. It's not part of it, right? So basically, that physical side of things it's like the engine, it's the processes and all the rest of it, but it's not the instruction that drives the engine, right? That you send, or you would send to an engine to work and stuff. So the mind, multiple roles again, like the physical, but we don't understand. We just think, all there is what psychology, thoughts, even from what we know from the alternatives and mindfulness and things, natural and therapies and grounding, all sorts of stuff that affects us mentally. Even the natural things at the moment that we do is not the full picture of the mind and its job, its process. The brain is not what I'm talking about. The brain is an organ and it is part of the physical. The mind is a living part of this ecosystem that is intuition. Now, the way I best describe your mind and how powerful it is, like your brain as an organ, it gives you synapse, it gives you survival, it gives you protection. There's a lot of things built into the brain. It helps the signaling for everything to go on in the body and bits and pieces. It's a really important part. But the mind that can affect things and make diseases worse, or to make diseases better, or make outcomes better, or whatever, that's a different thing. Now, I'm going to give you a metaphor to explain it, okay? Now, there's a workstation, or just a desk and a computer, right? And you go back 100 years and you put it on the street, and someone from 100 years comes along and they're colonial clothing and stuff, and they have a play around with it and it turns itself on, and then they find Google and they find, Excel spreadsheets, it sends emails, does languages, does geographic stuff. It's like everything. And they're like, oh my God, this is like their whole world in a box. And they can't fucking believe it, what they have access to. They have access to anything and everything from around the world. And so they get excited. They run off and they're going to bring as many people back. So they get some people, some friends, some family, and they bring them back. But while they were gone, I unplugged the cord at the back from the internet. And all that was there was a computer that was doing Word, Excel, basic computation, I guess you call it, calculation, Excel, spreadsheets, and all the rest of it. But it was that it was connected into something to which it gave it its greatest power, which gave it a power beyond all, perception, that it did almost everything. And so your mind is the same. Being connected to something through this soul gives you something which is unlimited mentally. Your thoughts are frequencies. Okay? They can be measured. Then when you say that thought, it's a frequency in the air, it's a vibration, and that can be picked up as well. All of these things you don't understand. So you could be talking something which could be giving it energy, which could be then making more of it attract to you, and it could be cancer. You could be making your cancer worse by the way you talk about it and how you talk about it and how you post and all sorts of stuff. So the mental anguish can be wearing on our physical body because it wears down, and in the microscopic, tiniest little, smallest thing, affect the chemicals. Now, when the chemicals are in dysfunction within this system, even just by the slightest fraction, it can mimic other health conditions. It can start having some problems. So mentally, while it's hard to think about all the different applications or multidimensional parts of mind and you thinking and the yin and yang, the positive and negative side of everything and how it all works and the bias and it goes way further than your surface level, even understanding of it here on Earth. Even if you're heavily invested in the alternative world, there is way more to go. The soul is like, we have psychology and stuff, and it's really messy and really complex, and they're one of the highest specialists paid on the earth, but they're not needed if you know this information that I'm about to provide to you. The other part, the third part, and as I said, no one of these parts is more important or less, and they all work together to be you. And so the part that we least sort of understand or know or work with or know that we can affect or influence or, get something out of is the soul. Your soul is the ancient part of you. It's the part that you get catching yourself saying, it's an observer. It observes you. When you say, "Oh, you shouldn't have said that. That was a bit harsh." That's your soul. It's you as more than a human being observing an expression of the organism that you call God, that is everything, a field that is with through everything. You're an expression of that field. You're an organism born from that field. So you are of that field. You are not separate from it. There is no separate God to worship. There is no God that would ever punish its creation. It's like you know what I mean? It's like you having a child and then Not having unconditional love for that child is impossible. You would give it everything possible you could, unless you were conditioned otherwise. So the soul, there's many things that I can tell you about the soul that you presently don't know. And it's not that science or emerging science or, that these papers aren't published or, there's quite common things that is widely known and accepted in science that still hasn't got to the masses. They say that you guys as a collective race or on the earth or whatever country or developed country you're from, that you're not ready for it. And that's why, I've asked many a time why do, say for instance, epigenetics, why is it still not on spell check on Word? And it's like, when I ask different people from all the way from the Prime Minister to, a professor or state psychiatrist, they're like, well, there's no need for the general public to know how to spell epigenetics. And to me, it seems like a ploy to keep us further away from the wisdom and the knowledge, which could ultimately save our lives. And we should be transparent with everything and closed off to nothing, especially when it comes to human beings. So this soul part, there's just, what do I tell you? The Human Genome Project has, still, if you don't know, it's a piece of work, a project that lots of people have contributed to. And, the crux of it is that they only know what 3.5% of our DNA does. For those of you who don't know, in basic terms, we get protein encoded instructions to stem cells to do certain building blocks of us and processes. It's like a computer, writes code and all sorts of stuff. So this soul part that we do know about, that scientists of everything, they don't know what 96.5% of it does. And they, for most of my life, it was called junk DNA. They actually thought that evolutionary, we just made a mistake, and 96.5% was actually junk DNA. Later they said it's non-coded DNA, so they're like, oh, it's empty. Maybe there's something to be fulfilled there. I'll tell you what it is. It's the blueprint to our divinity. There's a system. We're part of it. There's a system. It's all known, can be tested, can be seen. And when I say it's our template to our divinity, it's where our, we have two concurrent timelines going on. If we've got a soul, that means we've got an ancient soul that has 1 million lifetimes. And then we've got a biological, chemical, physiological micronism here on Earth having a timeline, which is your parents' biological time. And, that's where you've got your parents' mannerisms and stuff. You share things. And so these two are concurrently going on at the same time. That 96.5% of your DNA, that we don't know what it is, stores the other timeline. Makes sense, right? 96.5% of your timeline goes for your 1 million lifetimes. And this present lifetime, and a little bit of the last, 3.5%. It's more instructions that drives the engine of what you're doing today. They're the two, right? It makes sense. You have there's clues and there's surface level stuff littered throughout ancient history, mainly with indigenous people, which I guess a while ago we all were. And that indigenous gives you understanding, like the Sanskrit, word Merkaba, the vehicle that you walk around in, which is just your energy field. That's the multidimensional. That's in that DNA part. If you've ever heard of a kinesiologist, people like myself, lifelong, had a 20-year condition. This is profound in itself, like fucking jaw-dropping what the fuck is going on? 20-year problem, trauma, passing out, whatever. Doctors can't fix it. Specialists, tests, everything. MRI, CAT scan, PET scan, everything. Couldn't work it out in 20 years. A kinesiologist can identify that it was a trauma from when I was really young and I really buried it so bad, and it was having an effect on me today. So I'd asked my inner child to, to comfort it and to say, look, we're going to thingo, and then it asked first for the where it came from, give the answers, and then can you help me clear it, please? So that's called your innate. Doctors actually termed the innate, which is what the kinesiologist muscle test to get answers about you. It's communicating. A kinesiologist is communicating with a field, which is your truth self. It would be you if you weren't conditioned, had no one else affected you, no addictions. That's who and it remembers everything about you, every knock on the head, every sad day, every happy moment. Your innate knows everything about you. It is you more than you know you. Crazy, right? Now, the innate does some amazing things because, it was termed innate by the doctors because they used to come in, someone with a huge tumour that was impressing that had to be operated on in the morning, and come in the next day and it's gone. And they said, well, what, or accelerated tissue growth, or all these things are just outside of the norm, done quicker, amazing, like miracles. And doctors went, something innately has taken over and fixed this. Crazy that you could even imagine that would be possible. And, even just the 3,000 cases of that I found in my studies, which is fucking 8 years ago, is fascinating. And then you've got other doctors that have gone around and interviewed thousands of people as well. Fascinating stuff. So the innate does some amazing things. It governs karma. It governs that timeline and is in charge of your spiritual development. Might give you short lifetimes on purpose to capture enough spiritual bang for its buck to get you to where you need to go. Now, this is all another world that you have no idea, but when you know this world and when you study a broad range of work, and then it sort of forms a knowing, then you start getting the advantages of what spiritual woo-woo people, or what you thought was woo-woo, but it's actually practical application, have been saying for years, since the 60s and 70s and 80s, and that is, hey man, protection, support, guidance. You actually have a whole entourage of spirit team or influence or energy. Or if you look at the One Project, which is all about consciousness being energy, being measurable, being able to be used, then you'll understand that there's way more. But all these people that have been talking about these things and doing courses, and Reiki instructors do courses of protection, or they give themselves protection before they start doing energy work and stuff. Now, when you do all of this, you understand that. Do you know what I mean? I understood now, once going through that and getting to this stage and understanding, well, I've got protection now. I can feel it. I can see it. Things that used to happen, things that, just complete things that I would almost rely on being a hindrance or a niggling, annoying thing with me, gone, replaced by room to move, contentness, love, just real, it's just a nice feeling after living in chaos for most of my life, especially with that trauma and other stuff and that. We've all got little bits and pieces of trauma. Like, we might not have traumas that have flicked on and really affecting us, but we've also got fears, insecurities, wounds, or things that are like real sensitivities to things. And so these things, we can transmute as well. And that takes you to another level as well, because, at the end of the day, you learn all this stuff and you're mastering what it's like to be having a human experience down here on Earth. But I was just so glad when I found all this stuff out. You know why? Because before that I was thinking, if this is life, this is fucked. I'm not coming back here. Because you think about it, most of us, like, yeah, you might get lucky or this, or, there's a really big imbalance. It takes a hell of a lot just to survive. All families are dysfunctional. 1 in 3 women get sexually abused. Like, we're not the smartest, or we're not the most evolved or developed, or we have all these amazing resources, beauty, love, and yet we can easily be humanly conditioned or influenced or gullible or whatever, and we can almost trick ourselves into thinking that we're not worth that. So there's a lot going on that you don't know, right? I've just spent my whole life doing all that stuff. I didn't go to work and do all that stuff. I went to work to get money to pay the rent, to get through, to find out the next thing I was going to learn about humans, about us, about me, about, I've had to heal myself twice of incurable diseases in my life because I didn't want to go on anymore. If I had to get up after doing that for 10 years, after doing that for 20 years, come on. So now that negative experience has catapulted me into a thing where I'm now in control of my health. I can't get cancer. I know what causes. I know how to fix it straight away, even if I did get it. Anyone in my local circle, family, friends, whatever, and this is the way it works. I don't go out evangelizing because you guys aren't ready. You're still, you're still killing each other, for God's sake. Who does that when you've got no reason to? And so that's why, we're here. So the causes, all right, let's get into the causes of cancer. Now, I've just explained the body, the mind, and the spirit, and the 3 different things, and how we have yin and yang and positive and negative. And obviously, we also, as a human being, have a starting point. As a human being, here's a list of 100 things that are unnatural for a natural body that could cause cancer. And here's a list of 100 things that are naturally aligning for a natural system that all fits it like a glove and makes things work better. Okay, you've got 2 this. Now, on the list of the things that are unnatural for a natural system, which do fit the, what do you call it? They fit the, sort of like that. We're looking for unnatural things anyway. They're unnatural, right? That cause cancer. And then we're looking for things across physically. So what are some things that are unnatural that we do to our bodies? Chemicals, shampoos, deodorants, things we wash our clothes in. There's a whole chemical bombardment, perfumes, aftershave, the physical thing, on the outside of us. Environmentally, what we see, horror movies, news, being fear, indoctrination, doomsday sort of fear mongering and all that sort of stuff. Seeing that through your senses, it affects your nervous system and it puts it into a different state. And in that state, you're not working at optimum. So you're a lowered state. All right. Now, that's just one thing. And I've only explained 2 things. out of a possible 150 things. Okay? Then what happens is you start eating some stuff. Now, you're eating things based on society, community, the government. The government put out a thing, yet the Cancer Council Association diet causes cancer, doesn't fix it. There's people in the drug industry that are in the food industry. We're talking about if someone wants to market something to you in a big way, like a big multinational or whatever, it's usually something that's been manipulated to make you addicted to it or to get you hooked on it, right? And that's what food is. And so we haven't been giving ourselves, we haven't gone, what's the best possible food to give ourselves as a human being, and how do we do this evidence-based where we can test it and work out what we should be eating? No, we've just got 1,001 companies every day we step outside marketing to us in our phones, at the supermarkets, and then we go and we know that, I did it the other day, okay? I eat so clean and I was tired, I was lazy, I was just not feeling it, and I went, fuck it, just go and eat shit. And I went, you know what, I know it's not good for me, but I'm not going to fucking harp on little things, and we go and do it. Now, that's how it starts, right? That's how we start smoking. We fucking go and get drunk and we have one smoke, and then the next weekend we have another smoke, and then all of a sudden we get a pack during the week, and the next thing we're hooked on smoking cigarettes. Everything that's everyone's making money out of us is they get us hooked on it, right? They've got customers for life. They've got fucking business for life. They don't give a fuck whether you're dying, they're killing you, or whatever. And so we find that there's a lot of things that are actually unnatural for this natural system. And a lot of them, like 80% of them, is what you are doing to yourself every day because there's no alternative. If you drive from one side of this country to the other and you keep landing in towns in the middle of the night, the only thing to eat is McDonald's. High sugars, highly processed foods, genetically modified crops. All of these things are unnatural for a natural system. All of these things are out of balance. The body's state that it's in when it's in balance is called homeostasis, and that's through across a few systems. And our bodies are in such an elevated state of balance and homeostasis that everything works better. And your brain regulates everything, so your sleep, your hydration, your mood, the pain, every single thing works better when you're in that state of homeostasis. How many people out of the 8 billion people on Earth right now have been in that state, that elevated state, and felt what it's like? I'll tell you the answer. It's just me. Do you understand? One person out of 8 billion. No one out of all the greatest medical and science minds in the world, with all the resources and $1 trillion fucking resource funds and all the rest of it, have ever turned around and gone, hang on a minute, let's do this in a logical way. Let's start with a human being at its optimum, or let's get a human being to the optimum and see what it does. I'm going to tell you what it does. I first experienced this in 2018, and it's very widely known. The Prime Minister, a few Prime Ministers know about it. Health ministers, professors, organisations, state psychiatrists, Professor Duckworth at NAMI Institute in Washington. Gee, he's going to look like a piece of shit when all this comes out. They all know it, right? The homeostasis, when you've got your body into these higher states and you're unwell, I was the first in 2018. I'd been living with chronic anxiety for 10 years, medicated to zombie. After 10 years, I couldn't go on. I went to my doctor. He told me I have to be on all these drugs for the rest of my life. It made me angry. And I went back and I learned every single thing way beyond any person on earth's knowledge every day, all day, for 4 months to come up with a protocol to heal myself. And it worked. Regardless of how I did it, where I got the information from, what I tapped into, what spirits, what field, what line of thought, what ancient energies, doesn't matter. If I get a set of events and go, do this for 14 days, every day the same thing, eat this, drink that, do that, and you will heal yourself, and it works every time, who gives a fuck what I did or where I got the information from, right? It works. People look at the thing and go, nah, that wouldn't work. It's all natural. We got fucking, $1 trillion and fucking the greatest minds in the world, and they couldn't come up with that. You're telling me some fucking you that couldn't even finish year 7, couldn't even pass year 7 at school? Come on. It's laughable. So you've got all these physical things that cause cancer because they're unnatural for a natural system. You could imagine when I go through mentally being upset, mental anguish, not making sense of stuff, being lied to, fragments of reality, all little slight, tiny little adjustments we can't see, we can't do, that cause us mentally to lose control. Physically affects mentally, affects soul, and all the way through to each of them. Mentally as well, what we do, what we say, what frequencies put in the air. There's a reason why hypochondriacs get every single thing that they're worried about. They brought it on. So what you see mentally, you know what I mean? There's more this. There's just more than what you think. But it's quite simple, and it's just the way it is. Now, the soul's probably the least one. How would you know if you're not, your soul, your energy, your life force, your thingo, whatever, what could be detrimental or causing cancer from your conscious. Now, consciousness is energy. It can be used, and I'll give you an example of what consciousness can do positively and negatively, which will give you a good idea of then how it could be influencing and making unnatural things appear in the body in the form of cancers. Okay? So, you've heard of stories in the Bible of people doing amazing things, like Jesus walking on water, making fish and bread appear, and all that. And basically, he's mastered gravity and physics, and and so. And then on the negative side, you've heard of people being possessed and poltergeists and, priests going around and fucking doing exorcisms to get that negative, energy out of someone. When I was going through the learnings of this, I was shown this by Spirit itself, and I was actually given and put into situations that made me experience that and think that it was something else. How the mind can play tricks on you, and this is, and I got shown all sorts of stuff. There was a NASA experiment where they got someone and put them in goggles and turned it upside down, and within, I think it was 29 days, each person that did this, their brain turned it upside the other way around. So imagine putting goggles on and you see the whole world upside down, and you have to live like that, right? You can't take them off. Well, after a month, on average, your mind, your consciousness, turns those goggles back around in your head so that you can see properly. Once it realizes it's not going back. Now, that's fascinating stuff. So we don't understand what these, people getting possessed, right? You've seen it with your own very eyes, or maybe not in real life, but definitely in movies and bits and pieces. But you see that, and it's a negative form of consciousness. And that is a result of many years of that person watching scary films, horror films, negative things, and then having either some psychosis or mental anguish, or, there's a whole lot. There's many different, forms. It's almost like on a spectrum or whatever. And you got to remember, even when I talk to you about stuff, like just say I talk to you about aliens, the only thing that you've got to draw on in your whole being about aliens is what you've seen on the movies, on TV, and on the news. Aliens are nothing like that. But that's all you have in you, and then that's all your consciousness. If it's not awakened or doesn't know any better, that's all you can use. And that's why that person that needs the exorcism carries on like that. It's just a negative form of consciousness based on its belief and understanding of life until that stage. And if its only understanding of that negative stuff is through movies, then that's all it knows. And so it can be used positively to do some miraculous things as well. There's a guy called Dynamo Jack who, meditates for 8-9 hours a day, and then he can actually manipulate form and put pieces of paper on fire with his hands. So the people that did those things as well all throughout history, they were all classed as masters, like Sunat Kamatra, the Buddha, Kuan Yin, Jesus, Buddha. These are all people that walked the earth, right? That were people just like you and me that mastered it. Do you understand? They mastered what it's all about. We are so far from that. We still have a medical system that only deals with the physical, and it was designed to make money out of a byproduct of not natural things. And it's been going for 100 years. So we're at a point now where we're looking for the causes of cancer, and it's just obviously of cancer, all forms of cancer, whether it be tissue, tumour, blood, they're all basically unnatural things that are in this vessel. There's more than one way to put it there, and also then once you get a good idea of these are the things that are causing it, then you can offset it by doing a process of elimination, taking out someone's life that's got cancer, see if things improve. You can then work with the system you got and see if you can boost immune system. How do you boost it? Nutrition, all right. This is what nutrition levels here. I'm going to take it fucking 8 floors up. I'm going to, boost someone's immune system better than anyone on this planet has ever done before. And I did it, and it works. Okay, so after healing myself in 2018, I then had a few people that had, I was working with a guy that his uncle had 4 different types of cancer. He was in a coma, been in a coma for 5 months, and they were about to turn the life support off. Another guy that I knew's father-in-law had his head cavity was half full of a brain tumour that had already been cut out and grown twice as big. A 3-year-old with a tumour on the stem of his brain, on the stem of his spine or top of the spine, maybe. So all these different ones, bowel cancer, leukemia, Jeff, like all these ones. And 2019, because, look, these people were either colleagues, family, or friends, family, and they were all terminal. They were all, given very, very, like, no chance to live whatsoever. Now, doing the process of elimination, boosting immune, you've got challenges, right? Some people, like, there was one guy, and this is the thing that really gets me about human beings and culture and being influenced and fucking biology and all the rest of it. One guy didn't want to eat all that healthy shit. Sorry, mate. I've given you some, or now I know that now I've got a system. It all has to be done. You can't choose half of it. Does that make sense? I can't give you a protocol, right? And say, oh, look, this is what I think caused it. This is what I, would do to offset it. And this is what I've seen work every single time in every case. And even with the most aggressive cancers that were just really, really serious. But you need to do all of it. You can't pick and choose when you're finding a cause of cancer and it goes across 3 planes, is the body, the mind, and the soul, and then you do a protocol to address everything for that exactly thing, right? This is not a medicine, by the way. This is a full spectrum body enhancement that gets your body to a state of homeostasis so high that it cures cancer. All of them. It's got nothing to do with, no, we won't find a cure to cancer because they're all so different and so complex. Fuck off. Get the body into a state, right? This is another key. I got the body into a state where it's impossible to get cancer. Go to your doctor and say, man, if I was in full homeostasis, could I get cancer? And you go, no, it's impossible. Because that's all I did, is I went home and made a plan to get someone like me to a state of homeostasis to see what would happen. I didn't know it was going to reverse cancer. I just thought, that sounds interesting. I can't get cancer if my body's in this state. How about I try and get my body to this state? So it's like, how do you get it? What do we do to ourselves every day that affects our body, that we get the most bang? Oh, diet. Fuck. Eat. Food. Fucking bang. So you're almost like force feeding yourself like a chicken, boosting your immune system. You're doing, things that you're taking out of your life and getting rid of, like a lot of the influence, and things like electromagnetic fields and bits and pieces, which radiation and these fields have huge impacts on our health, not just our health, our cells, our tissue, right? Now, there's so much going on, but it's not that complicated, okay? So when you've got body, mind, and soul, and you do a plan for that, and then it works every time, why would you fuck with